Ayo. Welcome to Benchwarmers, a WOSO podcast episode 13. For all the Swifties out there, for all the Friday the 13th fans out there, for what else who's a number 13? Who's a famous number 13?
Who's a famous number 13? Oh.
Wow, this is bad from us. We should
It's not really a football number.
It's not really a football number, yeah. I was going to say we could talk about the number 12 in behind there, but she's no longer number 12 anymore. She's number 2, and we're going to talk about her pretty much right now as we're going to dive straight into the Women's Champions League. As Chelsea played Barcelona at the Bridge, the big game, the huge... I thought it would be a 2-1 win. It would be for Barca. I thought it would be close. You said a 3-1 win to Barca.
I was confident.
Yeah, and I also had to mention in my 2 that I wanted to see a Caro. I wanted to see a new and improved Caro, like the old Caro that we know and love, and I did not get that, sadly. I will be honest. I'm going to call out one of my favourite players of all time. But the first half of this game was absolute fireworks, to be honest. I thought it was fantastic. I thought this is exactly what Chelsea want the game to be. As much as I wanted a shellacking, we got the top of Sonia's game. 100%, and it only got better in the second half, but there were moments for Barcelona to take this away. I think Caro had that huge chance early on, and the question I have is 2 years ago, even a year and a half ago, if Pina plays that ball through to her, does she score that?
I think yes. I think it's obvious. Yeah,
and that's the question is, like, she's currently at about half the goal and assist output of what she usually plays at. Her innateness to get into advantaged positions for her strike. Like, I think her best strike is cutting inside on that left foot, but she seems to be taking a lot of her shots with her right foot. I felt like I don't know if she needs a rest. I don't know if she doesn't have... She's not feeling the right type of way about football at the moment, but it seems like this is not the same Caro.
I feel like Caro used the disappointment of the 23 World Cup to fuel her 23-24 campaign, and that's when we saw the best of Caro. I was surprised that post Euros, again, another disappointing Euros international tournament for Norway,
but she was very good.
She was good.
Fantastic.
She was fantastic, but you saw the mixing of the formation. Like, you could see that they were upset, the playing group, insofar as what the results also showed. But I thought that, again, she would use that and it would spur on her season. But I think I've seen the opposite. I think that she feels really weighed down. I feel like she looks like really disinterested. She's a very form player. If she's on, she's on. But if she's not on, then I think she takes it out on herself, and in turn she takes it out on the team. And because Barca are such a system-based team, every cog needs to be at their best. Right now she's not at the best, but then it's like, who do you replace her with? Like, when comes the time where you go, okay, Caro, you need to be on the bench. Like, you need to earn your spot back.
Yeah, and look, it's hard to say because, I mean, we know Caro's ceiling is arguably the best flank player in the world, I would say. And I don't know if it's the same, but players like Sydney Scherten-Lieb are hungry for that right side. I'd say Pina would start looking on the other side when Salma returns. And if Salma returns, even chucking Pina left and Salma on the right, having Kika through the centre, or Payot, which we will get to Payot eventually again. But it just feels like there needs to be a conversation that is had, because I feel like she needs to snap into form if they're going to get the best of Barcelona, because the best of Barcelona is when Caro is at her peak. And Caro also helps Alessia play well, helps Aitana play well. It's not just her goals and assists, it's what she does for other players around her on that right side, giving Ona the license to run forward, which we're not seeing as much of. And Chelsea really hammered into that right side, and then that's what happened when they started hammering that right side of Barca. It opened up the left side, and that's where you see ABJ turn Irina and play the ball to Carpenter, and Carpenter ran away. And I thought, like, I don't know if it was just me. I was very shocked that Esme was playing in this game after what happened that injury looked really bad. Obviously, it clearly wasn't, and she was playing, but she just didn't track Ellie back at all. I think she wasn't
aware that Ali was going to take the ball on like that first and foremost. But I also think that there was at the start of the game, both teams were just like a bit of a foot off. I felt like the movements weren't always up to speed. I think that they were adapting to how each other were playing. It was like basic chess pieces. It's been like this for Barca and Chelsea for a while now, and it takes a while. And it's usually the first team that kind of snaps that streak of, you know, chess football that you see, and it was Ali. I think it's instinctively Ali. Like I think she's so unmarred by the occasion. Like this isn't the Barca, you know, Chelsea game. Yeah, she's basically like she's unbothered by the fact that this is a big occasion. This is a revenge for the 8-2 aggregate smashing of last season, and Ali's coming into this. For all intensive purposes, the last time she played Barca was a final in the Champions League. But before that, it had been wins against Barca. So it's not that same mentality for her. So I think she took the game on, and I think Brutes and I think Barca as a whole were unprepared for that all game.
Yeah, I think Esme thought, I mean, from remembering the goal, I think Muppy was there in front to have the cover, but ultimately that helps Ellie get the separation to be able to rifle that ball. And I mean, this is the thing with Ellie Carpenter, is that we know she can do this. It's just how many times a year and the consistency of her being able to get to the back post and do her classic back post goal, or just absolutely leather the ball, an unstoppable strike. And sometimes you just watch that and you think to yourself, you know, if you can do that like maybe 6 or 7 more times a season, you might just be the best right back in the world. Like if you can just do that, the way you've run through their team, you took the game on yourself. And this is a perfect goal for Sonia as well, because it's her decision to bring Carpenter in
and to put her on the right wing.
And to put her on the right wing. Yeah. And it's me going, you know what, we lost 4-1 twice last year. Now look at our team and look what the plan was, and you weren't prepared for what I had. And that's why it was such a good tone setter, that goal. And I kind of thought that they would do that Emma Hayes game management 1-0 control a game, which also is very reminiscent of Bombasta as well when she plays Barcelona, is that she does shell up a little bit and does go a bit more pragmatic. But ultimately, Barca are always going to get chances, and with the possession stats they had, they're always going to creep up into the final third, grab a light corner here and there. And what you really hope is that when a scramble happens between Walsh Captine and Leah Alexandri, that the last player who falls on the end of that scramble is Ewa the Destroyer. Oh my God, what a strike. Unmarked in the 18, but to rifle that through traffic. I feel like if that even hit anyone, it would have just gone through their body. It just would have been laced through. But it looked a bit silly on Chelsea's behalf that no one was running with her. She just had separation in the box, which, I mean, 0 to 18, you could argue she's the best at that kind of thing, and put the tables level, right? Put the scores level. And I kind of thought this was the turning point for Barcelona, because they started to creep up more possession. They had the right players getting on the ball, creeping up in those spaces. But then something switched for Chelsea in that 30th minute, and I think it was the midfield. I feel like they actually kind of bossed around the speed of the game, the tempo of the game. They chose when to go fast and slow, which we saw against your lot in that London derby. Captine hits the post, which, I mean, if she scored that, it would have justified every decision Sonia's ever made in football if Captine scored. But I will still continue to roast Captine as a player who shouldn't be in this Chelsea 11. I'm sorry, you're just not the one. I don't know what Sonia sees in you, but I mean, if you scored that, maybe I would see it. But she
sees something that obviously Sherkanuskan is not.
Yeah, exactly. CO, Macario as well. Just, I mean, we've seen Macario play deeper, not just in the 9. She can do that hovering role, but ultimately the second half was where Chelsea really went into stride for chance after chance after chance. I feel like I can't really remember a second half big key chance for Barcelona. And all I remember is Ellie having many, many chances in this half, exploiting that right side, but actually having easier percentage chances than the one she took and missing them, which is exactly what what we have seen Ellie do, which especially that one late on, the late one on where she was really in front of the goal. Like we're talking,
it was basically 1v1.
yeah,
And and that I think is the difference between a Chelsea Champions League run of the ages and not.
yeah,
I genuinely
yeah.
think it's those last bits of quality that Chelsea pride themselves on. They pride themselves on being technically superior than their opposition. But in this game, we saw that it was actually instinctiveness. It was actually the take the shot, Barca are always going to outplay Chelsea. It's never going to happen that there's going to be a Chelsea team that reaches the technical ability of
No,
Barca. So I think that naturally that means that you have to kind of dig into that scrappy side of football that actually then lends itself to missing these types of chances, even if early on you're making the chances. So like I think of, for example, even Barca kind of fed into that. I mean, Lexi had a shot in the second half which flew over the bar, I believe, and I'm thinking in other chances like she's more composed, she knows what she's doing, but it was very rushed at the end, and I felt that even with the offside goal, which I know was very contentious.
yeah. So the Macario offside goal, a fantastic cross and a fantastic header. However, she is offside, and there's no question about it. They have semi-automated offsides, no, and it was pretty obvious. And what a shock! What a surprise! Chelsea fans still complaining about offsides even when we have VAR in the room. So
well, it's basically Chelsea fans picking the screenshot of one angle, which apparently is the angle of all angles, which shows every single perspective possible. No, we know more than those in the rooms. Those in the rooms know what they're doing, and the only way that you can play football is by trusting the officials.
exactly.
And like, if the officials didn't have the technology, then yes, I would.
Then you can have fun with it, but ultimately you don't know better than the officials because the official is on the line watching this is their job, right? This is the part where I get angry about VAR and the fan service, because ultimately it's a thankless task of getting the right decision and making it a conversation, because the conversation actually shouldn't be about that moment, and it can be about Ellie Carpenter a little bit for having a spectacular game, but I actually want to talk about post-match, because the way in which Chelsea fans, Chelsea players, and Chelsea's manager, Sonia, were acting after this 1-1 draw was like they had won the match. It was insane. I thought, like, no offense, like I know then they're probably look, they're going to run us for the league, and I can see it happen. I see our downfall inevitable, but small club mentality. I'm sorry. That is a ridiculous thing to see. The players celebrating on the touchline for a 1-1 draw. That was your best night and their worst night at the Bridge. Like, come on. Like, you should be angry. You should have won that game. Like, I don't understand. Like, obviously you can be happy with the fact that you didn't get packed in, right? I get that your history and your track record isn't there. But I thought Sonia would demand excellence of her team. Like, if I was Sonia and I watched that game, they had the same amount of shots, basically the same amount of shots on target, did more with the ball, had the better clear-cut chances. I would be pissed. And you had the offside goal. Like, come on. Like, this is the game to be angry at the fact that you could have done it. And if I was Barca, they were looking roughed up at the end, and they looked miserable, and Aitana had that angry aura face on. But the reality is they should be happy with the fact that they got a draw out of that game, because they didn't deserve a draw for that game, personally.
Well, more so, I think two things. I think Emma Hayes, and I hate to bring it back to that, but she is the one that established the culture at Chelsea. There would be no Chelsea that we know now without Emma Hayes. And I can tell you, Emma Hayes would probably have tried to mask up the fact that it was a draw. I remember her post-match after the 2-1 or the 1-0 loss, where she said that was the most rattled that Barca had ever looked. Like, yes, she would react that way, but I can tell you she's not getting her players to celebrate like that after the game.
No,
and then
never.
The second thing is, and I also hate to bring it back to Arsenal, but it's a fact. Arsenal beat this Barcelona team, right? We are one of the first teams since the 23-24 team. We're actually the first team since the 23-24 season to beat Barca as an English team, right?
No.
I'm wrong
We beat them.
City
Thank
did.
you.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. But okay, in a final.
In a consequential game, 100%. Like, that is the biggest win for an English team in the Champions League. No question about it.
So to me, because I'm bringing it back to Arsenal, I'm recognizing that this team changes, yes, but it's basically the same team, can be beaten. And they can be beaten by playing a style of football that is antagonistic and pragmatic. And Chelsea, in all intensive purposes, have been playing that style of football. They can't tell, like they can't tell their fans, they can't tell the audience that they've been playing nice football, that is league winning, that is beautiful, that is easy on the eye. It's not. It's actually quite disgusting. So if they're trying to play that stodgy style of football, then I expect you to play that against Barca and really break them down. And they didn't. To all, like
They
tried.
had moments.
They
So
had
this
moments,
is yeah,
but
this is and it goes back into what you said about their beautiful game. There are moments of their game. Aggie Beaver Jones's turn to Carpenter, like that whole goal, that first goal is everything Sonia wants in her game. Alongside the fitness, the power, the powerhouses, the bruiser mentality that the back line has. Like they're not breaking through. You have to technically break down Chelsea. And I like that that's their plan and that's their brand. But I just think even for Sonia, like for fans to celebrate it, yes, we didn't get packed in, sure. For players to celebrate the fact that they didn't get packed in, sure. But if Emma Hayes drew that game 1-1 with that performance, she would have been like, we should have won that game. We should have won that game 100%. And Sonia being happy, clapping her coaches and everything, I felt like was a bit. Again, I mean, it is a bit nitpicky, but the reality is, I remember Emma Hayes winning a game 1-0 against Barcelona and also not being this happy after winning and saying we've got another 90 minutes and that was okay. We could have done things better, but we did the right things for what we needed. But that's the mentality you need to win the Champions League. I predicted this team to win the Champions League, and I think the team is there. Clearly, the squad is there to do it, and the players are ready to do it. They just need that final touch, and I think there are certain teams that have that final touch, and we're going to move on to them now. I'm actually going to give your lot the credit they deserve, which is basically I thought this game reeked of a 2-2. I actually called that Carolina. Well, actually, I said Caicedo would get the first and Weir would get a second and get the 2-2. But you said 2-0. Obviously, not recognizing your form in scoring the first goal is pretty evident of Arsenal as a whole. But I feel like there are players that we can talk about. There are moments in this game that are definitely worth catching on to. But I'm going to give you the floor. This is your game.
Okay, well, first of all, we have to talk about the fact that there was a change in formation finally.
Yes.
We finally moved from the 3-5-2. Cena is moved back on the bench. I hate to burden players that I love and just chuck them on the bench. I know we're the bench warmers, but I hate to do it. But Cena on the bench is...
It's a compliment. It's a compliment. She has the warm. She warms the bench better than everyone, and then whoever sits on the bench after she comes on gets the most comfortable seat in the world to watch Stina Blackstenius do the business. But yeah, you must have had a great feeling seeing the lineup, seeing a different formation. Is that let it all work out?
No, well, yes, because I finally saw Marnham in the starting lineup, which was, to me, what is most vindicating, because I've been saying that Marnham deserves the start. It's not even deserves. She deserves to earn her spot back. It's kind of like it was lost, and I was a bit confused, but CK, Smith, they're in for Ford and Beth. I was not surprised because I know that that's the partnership that we're kind of going for in the Champions League. I was a bit surprised that there were no changes in the back line because I know that Taylor Hines likes to come in for Katie McCabe, but I also recognize that Katie does have good games against Madrid, and I knew that the right-hand side was always going to be the side that was less locked down than the left. I knew that Navarro was going to have an absolute day against Smith. I could just feel it. I feel like that's the type of defender that Smith hasn't necessarily come up against, like a real tied-on marker who plays up against those type of techie wingers in the league. So to me,
game IQ as well.
Yeah, and to me, I think Smith dealt with it well. I think that she grew into the game. I actually think her second half was better. But
yes.
I can't really complain about the lineup. I mean, KCC got her first start of this campaign in the Champions League. Obviously for injury. I mean, I would prefer Kimmy, but that's
injuries are injuries, yeah.
But look, I think the game started surprisingly how most Arsenal games start. We had a lot of the possession. Real Madrid wanted that transition ball. They got it. We did allow them to play attacking football on transition. Did I get nervous? Not really, because I saw that they didn't really have their shooting boots on, Real
No,
Madrid, except for
not in the first half,
no,
really.
even yes, Fella's 1v1, which was offside,
Oh,
was one
yeah.
of the worst shots 1v1 that I've seen.
She is a finish away from being Beerenstein or like Millard. Like she definitely has the intuition, the run making, the breaking lines, playing off the shoulder. I think if
Yeah.
she starts clicking her game with Weir and Caicedo and Navarro as well. I mean, Navarro is quite interesting because I mean I've watched a lot of her games this year specifically because of the position change. Like she is not a natural fullback, but it's because her game IQ is so high, she can just break into those attacking positions. And look, McCabe has been on the back end of some tough fullbacks and wingers this year, and they've gotten the better of her a little bit. But also, McCabe held her own. I think this wasn't a terrible game for Katie McCabe, considering her season hasn't been as immediately impactful as we know her to be. The game kind of really starts with that first goal for Real Madrid. And,
Yeah, and I can't like now that we've won, and even then I can say that strike by Caroline Weir was clean. It was clean. It actually, I wrote down that it was a WOSO volley, which we've coined. I actually think
that's not
it
a
was
WOSO
actually
volley.
cleaner. It was cleaner than
No.
the infamous WOSO volley.
No,
That
there's
was
no chariot.
clean.
No chariots of fire is playing while that ball goes in. That was just like, oh
That was
damn,
clean.
you've left Caroline Weir alone to hit the ball like that. And we'll talk more about Caroline Weir in the league because I mean the goal she scored there, oh my days. But do you think when you were 1-0 down, there was more in this game? There was more narrative to be had because they don't really lock down teams very well, do they?
Yeah, I thought if we can capitalize, I wanted a goal hopefully as soon as possible. Like if it wasn't going to be right after we kick off, then I wanted to be straight after the break.
Not a
We didn't
smash
get
and
that.
grab late or anything.
Yeah, I wanted a second half that proved why we were European champions and why we had the experience, but also what we did to Real Madrid in the second half of the second leg last season was just completely break them down.
And who
I
broke
felt-
them down last year?
Yeah, it was the number one Madrid hater in the world. I think. I mean,
Alessia
maybe-
to Barcelona confirmed.
I was just about to say, maybe the answer for Barca to finally win the quadruple is to basically just get Alessia Russo because
With what money?
with the pure Catalan pride that she's adopted because
it's
she
true.
hates Real Madrid.
Imagine what she'd do to Espanyol.
she hates Real Madrid and I think Real Madrid and I think a lot of teams hate these late deep lying crosses by our wingers to the far post because Russo just absolutely kills on those far post crosses. We saw it from Marnham. We've seen it now with CK, both of which were crosses, which, by the way, I didn't even think that they looked when they crossed. I think it instinctively knew that Russo was going to run onto the ball. I actually
See, I was actually going to say something different. So if I want a headerer, like the best headerers in the world, I'm thinking Bunny, Pop, Ada, Wendy, Russo. I think that's a good five, right? If you want someone running onto the ball, I was going to say you want Ada and you want Wendy Renard specifically, and
Wendy
then,
running.
yeah, Wendy. Well, Wendy when she does that darting like set piece cross run across the box. If you want a player to just stand still and not jump, then I choose Bunny Shaw. And Pop's also very good at that as well. But if you want to play it to just do a standing jump from across, Alessia Russo, I would argue, has claim to number one because she did it in the final against Spain. It's the exact same header as the goal in the Euros final, where you don't think that there's enough power on the cross, and you're like, okay, this is a nothing cross, there's nothing to it. And then she jumps up high, and you're like, okay, well, she hasn't run onto the ball, so she can't manufacture the power. And then she doesn't header it with the front of her head, it's like the side, and it just loops so high, and it's like, how did you do? Like, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, how do you just consistently score this thumping, like rising header that's like no one can jump with you. It's a standing static jump. I don't see her like driving onto it. Sometimes she's even running back running backwards and
Yeah.
then heading
She
headering
loves
the
those.
ball.
She loves the
Yeah,
running
exactly.
backwards.
That's what I mean. Is like that mechanic. I feel like she's probably number one in the world at, and that's the classic Lessie equalizing goal. That I kind of knew once that ball went in, this is game on, and you had the possession to go with it. You even had the possession in the second half, and I didn't know how you'd get the second, but I mean, I didn't think it would be Lessie. I thought she'd got her one goal for the game, and that's what she does. She hasn't been smacking in braces all year, but I mean, pretty happy with the second one, or just
I was
a bit shitty
incredibly
defending?
happy. No, I was incredibly happy with the second one because the
Yeah,
second one was pure power on the head.
it
Yeah,
was much better.
the first one is precision, and I can really appreciate Russo and her courageousness because I feel like she's a player that stands her ground in the box.
Back with the flight.
Yeah, but this one to me, I mean, the cross is, we haven't scored a lot of goals from corners. I think that's been one of our problems. We're not scoring a lot from set pieces, which is, we have the players obviously to do it. But to me, it was the fact that she was around the penalty spot.
Yeah,
And
easy.
it was just
Bullet
the
header.
bullet of the header was just fantastic. And I think that was pretty emblematic of the final 25 minutes of the game. We stamped our authority on that game. There were chances where we probably could have even gotten many more. It's just Stina happened to be offside or just can't score a 1v1. But I thought that it was as convincing as a performance that you'd want going into an international break, but also coming off a run of form, which was being pretty unconvincing.
Yeah, definitely. And good to see, I mean, Beth Mead coming off on the moments player. This is what we have said time and time again, that she's not 0 to 60. She's 60 to 90. You want her at the death of the game with full fitness against players who are tired and whipping in great balls like that. As you said before, Liv Smith, I 100% agree. She grew into the game. Another day she scores twice in that game. The amount of chances she had at the back, and she's got, I don't know, I think she's won the crowd over. I think the crowd want her to succeed. I think she's really stamped her approval for Arsenal. I'm very confident to say that, like you said, she's never bench again last week. I'm very confident to say she's the right winger you need. Right wing and then 40 on the left. I think that is your two best wingers, and Kelly and Beth are your moments. But ultimately, like, I like watching Liv Smith a lot. She's one of the players, like, I'll definitely go. Like, I wake up at 3 a.m. to watch. She's the kind of player I want to see. That's that kind of just aggressiveness, take on the one player or cut inside, smack it, be on the end of everything. She works so hard. Like, it's so obvious that she is so Arsenal pilled already. And that's very good for you guys, considering you spent a lot of money on her, and rightfully so. That's how she should be playing.
I feel like if we quickly talk about, being Arsenal pilled and talking a little bit about the culture at Arsenal, obviously we had the expose, if you like, come out.
Oh yeah, far out. Sorry, yeah. If we're talking about setting the culture, maybe Liv Smith should be setting the culture.
Well, I have a lot of questions. Obviously,
Yeah.
as an Arsenal fan, but as a women's football watcher, I'm not naive to the fact that there are cliques in football. That
in every team.
There's
Yeah.
hierarchy, there's respect given to some players, and then there's the earned respect that people and new team players basically have to earn. But I think what's most damning about this is, and I said this to you, Arsenal are kind of seen as the people's team. Everyone looks at Arsenal to be like this lovely, peace and harmony club that accepts all, that is, for the football, doesn't kind of deal with all that clickiness, but it happens. And I think coming off the back of the Euros, that had so much attention on it for the big names, like the Chloe Kellys, like the Leah Williamsons.
Alessia.
Alessia as well. I think that there is obviously, and especially now with the added pressure of being European champions, there is a level of, even I say it like audaciousness and a bit of, being a bit up yourself, which I think is something that Arsenal are not associated with. And I'm actually not. I don't hate it. I don't hate the fact that we want to strive to do something. We want to strive to be something. It's what the teams of the past, of the early 2000s had. We had that ambition and that drive that I think has been lost a little bit in our kind of realigning of our identity. I think that was, especially under the Giannis years, we tried to act as a bit of an underdog because we were in an era where Chelsea was so obviously dominating and we were seen as the cup team, right? But I think that if these hierarchies and these cliques are going to affect the on-field performance, and the connections that we have. I personally haven't seen that. If anything,
You don't think
No.
your position on the ladder, your position in the Champions League so far is any
I don't think
indication
it's
of
about that.
any sort of cultural?
No, I think
play?
I think it's player selection, which
Yeah.
yes, if that has to do with specific players having far more weight in their selection, then that's wrong. That's like so obviously wrong. But if I don't see team chemistry being an issue on the pitch. If anything, I think it's the small things, the loose passes, the missing of chances, the second efforts not being there. That's the thing. And I feel like to me, that's individual effort. And I feel like if anything, it's a culture of just mundanity. We're not eager to please anymore. I kind of miss the Arsenal days where we would go out in front of 30, 40,000 people and want to show why we're the Arsenal. It's a bit like, yeah, we're European champions now. We've done it. You've supported us. Thank you. Right? It's a simple thank you.
Interesting. That's so interesting. Like, look, this is something that, like, obviously I can have opinions on. I'm not an Arsenal fan, right? I can only look at it from the guise of what I know Arsenal to be from a rival standpoint. And I think that's why I will take what you say as someone who likes Arsenal more than anyone I know, despite, I mean, again, you don't have to be in the rooms to know what it means to be Arsenal, right? And I think that's the part that people get wrong, is that, like, okay, just because we don't know what's going on 100% and we don't know the names of what's happening, but in these little excerpts where they're talking about players' notoriety going above, and I can't remember the direct quote, but talking about, like, their status symbol and, like, their popularity growing to a point. That should bear, especially if you're Renee Sledgers in that room and you can see that, like, you're the coach, you should be basically the moral arbiter of the culture in your respective team. Obviously, you don't have the power to set the culture because that comes from the players, but if you can see that, if you see that these excerpts come out, obviously you can just throw them aside, and that's Renee's prerogative, and that's fine. But if you think of something like that as that has any slither of indication of what's going on, your job is to make sure that doesn't exist, right? And I feel like, I mean, you can say that there's no indication of performance. I feel like other teams who win the European Cup in the way you would have done, which I don't think there's many that could, but they don't settle for less. You know what? Like, yeah. I feel like the way you ended it just then, what you said, the we won that, thank you, and now, like, thanks, like, keep riding that wave. This is the, like, you're seeing Barca as hungry as they've ever been. You're seeing Lyon hungrier than they've ever been. You're seeing my team hungrier than they've ever been to win the league in a while. You're seeing Chelsea, who are obviously not finding the same form, but still look hungry, right? And Arsenal just don't look as like, you can say you miss the days of Monty Ball and the beautiful game. I miss your miserliness, right? This is an Arsenal team that used to not concede, right? You just didn't ship goals like that, or there was just an idea that even if you lost a game, you would rebound straight away. You would show the levels. And I feel like if you come up against Lyon over 2 legs, you come up against Barca over 2 legs, or Chelsea over 2 legs, I think to myself, which Arsenal turns up? Is it the latter end, the high self-esteem end that believes that they've been there and done that? Or is it, in my opinion, the Liv Smith end, the Caitlin Ford end, the Katie Reed end that have so much to prove? They're so hungry to win, to be a part of the culture that already fostered greatness, that already fostered the success. The only team in England to succeed in Europe. That's what it means to play for Arsenal. And that's what I see as a rival fan, is that's the notoriety. That's where the self-esteem comes from. It comes from pride, not from self-esteem. It doesn't come from we're this good. It's look at what we achieved together. It's not individual brilliance. Watching you guys against Real Madrid. I know Russo got the goals. It's not individual brilliance. That was a team performance with individual moments. And I think that's how I hope those excerpts are kind of looked at with a grain of salt, in the sense of that, could it affect the on-field pitch performances? probably nothing goes underdone when you're losing games to, or you're tying games to Villa, and you're losing games to us when you've tied up late on. There are moments to look at, but I don't think they're indicative of any greater like epidemic of Arsenal, I guess.
If anything, I think this is just another kind of fallen chess piece in the kind of WOSO nicety board. I feel like we're kind of over that now. It started with the Merps book. This has come out. There's been other things in the past.
A lot of books.
I just feel like now I think the game is starting to realize that if you mix like attitudes and personalities that are driven by that drive to success and the innate tensions that lie when you have so many of those personalities in a high intense environment, those things are going to happen. These things are going to exist. We will survive. We are going to play. We're going to play in a week.
We're going to win the quadruple.
We're going to win the quadruple. Everyone's going to forget about this article.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll be great when you're not playing in the Conti Cup next year. Hey. If anyone didn't notice watching the full video pod, I know it's November, but it's never a bad day to rep Oktoberfest. But yeah, we are going to talk about probably, arguably, the form team in the world right now. Bayern Munich slicing PSG at the Parc De Princes. I said 3-1, you said 4-1. Both of us pretty much spot on what was going to happen. And though neither of us said that PSG would get the first goal, we kind of thought it'd be consolation. But when Karchaoui broke through, I mean, firstly, great goal. Yeah. I mean, this is quite indicative of Bayern's league performances where they cop one and then just go God mode after.
I think two things. I think one, every time Karchaoui is on the ball, let alone scores, I'm just like, get out of that club. Leave. Go. You can just leave. You can do so much better.
Interesting. I was going to say one of my big takeaways of this game is that there's like a formula to Bayern's game and there's a formula to PSG's game, right? Mm-hmm. So if Bayern are winning, Stanway is 10 meters further forward than she should be. And if PSG are losing, Karchaoui is just taking pot shots in front of 5 players. Like, that's what happens when PSG go into their shell. Karchaoui is like, who do I give the ball to here? And this is the issue, right? Is that they are so good in their respective league form, and we'll get to the French league eventually. But when you come up against opposition that doesn't give up and doesn't shell in, and Bayern never shell in, and this run in this midfield, albeit not with a lot of changes, can get back into the game in the way we know they can, and it comes from different suspects every week. So the last 5 weeks, it's been Klarabul. Klarabul had a great performance, great 90, but it was Dahlmann this week. It was Tanikawa this week. It was just fantastic work from players who probably needed to step up and do their respective jobs for this season, because, I mean, Dahlmann's been good, but not amazing. And then Tanikawa's this week has been amazing, but not to this level. This is the level we kind of expect Tanikawa to get to, maybe a little bit less than this. This was a pretty amazing week for her, especially in the league. But again, as you said before, the calmness, the clinical nature of Bayern, knowing that they will never panic under pressure. I want to shout out a player that you hate. And I asked you this question a few weeks ago. I said, Damjanovic, what is she? Yeah, and I didn't understand it. I didn't really understand it. I was like, is she a 9? Is she a 10? Do you have footballing ability? Are you just a tackler? Are you just a disruptor? And then shout out to Tifo Football, by the way, who made a video earlier this week about Thomas Muller, talking about what a Ramdeuter is. I don't know if you saw this.
I haven't seen this.
But the Ramdeuter is a term that was made for Thomas Muller, right? Okay. Which is in reference to how he plays, in which Thomas Muller was, I mean, we all watched Thomas Muller through the World Cup, through Bayern, he won everything, right? But he described himself as a Ramdeuter, and management, Hansi Flick, also talks about this and says, a Ramdeuter occupies space, doesn't command the ball, identifies the spaces in which there is no demand for, and then exploits the unmarkedness of that space to create channels for them to score. And I was thinking to myself, who is the WOSO Ramdeuter? Like, who is this player? And then I watched this game and I'm like, oh my God, I finally see what this human is doing. Like, this is actually it. Like, she's not in the spaces where you want a disrupting, barging, box crashing 10 or 9 and 10 and a half, whatever number you want to give her. She's occupying space that no one wants so that she opens up the passing lanes. She opens up Tanikawa to drive forward. When Leah Schuller's playing, they can swap and rotate. It's actually quite technical in what she's doing, and I don't think she gets enough credit in that. And obviously there are other WOSO Ramdeuters around the world. I'm thinking personally of like Kika Nazareth. I think she does it arguably better than most because, I mean, she doesn't need to play the ball with the ball ahead of her. But I think Damjanovic's substitute performance in this game was particularly excellent. I think her moments where she starts, I think you're kind of right. I think the question is, when is her best minutes on the field and when she's useful in a game? I think against a top tier side when they're playing Barcelona and they can just pass around her and they're not getting enough possession. Is Damjanovic useful? Probably not. But if they're going to get the possession, she can be the box crusher, make them tired, and then when they when they need a super sub to end a game to finish it off when they're already 2-1 up, this is the kind of player you don't want to be dealing with when the team's already winning. So I want to shout her out. Just like, I agree. She's not, when you look at that front four, she is not the technically gifted. She's not the fastest. She's not the best strike, but she has a role and she does it really, really well.
I think I love your argument. I do.
Yeah.
I just take context into this.
Yeah, of course.
I think that this player that you're identifying, Thomas Muller to be specific, is a player that worked where there was system priority.
Of course.
Both teams obviously had an innate style and an innate system, and he would come in and disrupt that. I don't think in the women's game we're at a level where I can definitively say that that Bayern are always going to play teams where styles are going to be so diametrically opposed that you need that disruptor. You need that firecracker to come in and completely tear the game open. That's where I think super subs come in. And I think that's where the women's game is at right now. I think super subs are the way if you want to disrupt because they add something different. Super subs aren't like in the men where it's basically like contractual or it's a hierarchy. It's
role player style. Yeah.
It's Cena. It is Pina to some extent. It's basically you're bringing on not just the player, but you're bringing on a characteristic that you want to inject in the game.
The archetype, exactly.
Yeah. And I think Damjanovic, I think she doesn't start because of two things. I think she tires herself out doing all those things, and actually she kind of is cohesive to the system. She kind of like, it rubs the wrong way at the start of games, but if you do it later on when teams are much more settled in their style and kind of unwilling to move, they're a bit tired as well, she comes in and does the job. And secondly, I actually think if you add that and you inject that, as we've seen with other teams, it gives you an advantage, and we saw it and we've been seeing it. And I just think as a starter, you don't see it. So to me, I'm just seeing the Damjanovic that you've identified when she comes on.
Yeah.
Versus when she started.
Oh, of course. And but I also think it's team dependent. Exactly what you said. So when you're playing PSG and Karchel is taking pot shots and Echegini's a bit isolated, the structure isn't there for Damjanovic to be able to occupy those spaces in a way that's more meaningful, to say the least. But if they're playing against Chelsea or Real Madrid, where there's a dictated style, there's an agenda on the table for them. If her job is to disrupt that agenda by being isolated intentionally, I feel like she has an important role if Bayern are going to progress. And I want to say that I did call Bayern to be the fourth team to break the Mount Rushmore in the UCLW this year. So I'm hoping they keep their form and do that. But like, I think she's got an important role to play in the latter stages of this UCLW campaign, whether it be off the bench or starting, depending on how the manager wants to use her. But ultimately, Bayern are looking the goods. And
if Bayern win the Champions League, I dare you to get a Damjanovic jersey.
Yeah, you know what? I've got I'll go Ramdeuter. Ramdeuter Janovic. Yeah, I'll put it all on one shirt. You'll be like curved name set. Beautiful. another team that might, interestingly, be the team that knocks out of that Rushmore is Kangwon. Kangwon really suffer. I mean, saving their unbeaten run personally, but we were so wrong with our predictions here. I said a 3-0 win over Juve at home, away, and you said 5-0. And I mean, Juve were up 3-0 at halftime, and I mean, this game was just, I don't know what I was. Honestly, the first half. We discussed this off camera. We were like, did Lyon want to lose in this game? I was so confused at the ease at which Juve were able to transition the ball, the way in which they were able to get into... I mean, firstly, the way they were scoring low percentage chances pissed me off because like that just shouldn't go in all the time. But then they were getting high percentage chances, and there was nothing that this narrow Lyon backline could do for the first 30 to 40 minutes of this game. And I'm not looking at any player individually, albeit like Salma Basha was getting a little bit cooked on that left side. What was Giraldez doing? There was no agency to change up the game, to make this a dogfight, make this a scrap. It only took till the halftime whistle for him to say things to his players going, this needs to change.
I felt like this was a game where dependency and expectation of scoring and kind of showing up was handballed. It was kind of like every player walked out on the pitch and they looked over their shoulder and they went, it's all right, she'll do it this game. It's all right, she'll do it this game. And no one took it on themselves, and no one took the responsibility in the first half to grab the game, kind of like Juve did, and show that they are, the omnipotent power in the Champions League. They are. It's just obvious. So to me, I found that first half, I don't think it's indicative of anything, which, it's funny because you go down 3-0, you'd usually think it's, there's something systemically wrong. No, I think it's more three days off from a game. I think, I also think that there's a problem with the league format, not the Champions League, the League One format, the Arcana. There's just too many breaks. So I feel like naturally you're going to get a stop-start thing that is going to catch up on you, and it caught up on them in that 45. Personally, I take that first 45 mostly as a blueprint to what can happen and how you can exploit Lyon when they're like this, because I don't think this will be a one-off. I do think teams, even if it's for 20 minutes, even if it's not for a full half, if you can just catch Lyon like Arsenal did last year, we can catch them in a 20-minute patch of really loose form, you exploit. And that's what Juve did. And I thought it was both very Italian, but also very un-Italian. It was both, yes, let's exploit this team's weakness, but also it was the shots, the style of play, the moving the ball from ambitiousness, from defense, the midfield it was beautiful football, honestly.
It was beautiful. That second goal specifically, Kambaji's goal with the finish at the near post was fantastic. But obviously this game was an amazing game of two halves. And look, Johannes, albeit going to be an amazing player, was not impacting this game at all.
I don't think she's had a good Champions League run.
Yeah.
I think she looks a bit out of her depth.
Yeah, but I mean, she is doing it in the league, and we'll get to the league eventually. But ultimately, I think she needs... I mean, she had that amazing goal, the halfway line strike. I believe that was in the Champions League. But her form in terms of impacting the game, we know she can. I feel like she's getting stepped on, especially in this game, because they doubled up on her a little bit. But look, Giraldez made decisions in the second half that impacted this game, right? So obviously, Kansi, the manager for Juve, wasn't going to let that slide as well, and brought on Lindsay Thomas early and took off Kambaji because she can only do the first 45. But bringing on Sombath, and I hate to say it, but Corbin Albert gave a lot of security in that central midfield to make sure that Heaps and Albert sit there and just control that midfield the way that Giraldez wants it to be done. And then Diani can invert centrally, and De Mornay can occupy wide spaces. And when De Mornay occupies those wide spaces, that's when Lyon start cooking. And her second half, if you just took this game off the second half, I personally think De Mornay was man of the match, the way she was running the show. But Chawinga great goal at the back post, starts the comeback. Then Katoto comes on, finally delivering for Lyon. And, I mean, that goal doesn't happen, by the way, without De Mornay dribbling through about 4, 5, 6 players, whipping that ball across, getting the parry, and then Salma Basha gets the separation for the cross to Katoto, which is a fantastic goal. And then you kind of knew when it was 3-2 that when's the third coming, which, I mean, was very late, very lucky handball. It was
disappointing, though. I kind of wish that they had done the 3 comeback all through open play. I kind of felt like the last goal was a bit of a cop out. Like it was
bailed
slackness.
out. Bailed out.
Slackness by the Juve defender. I felt like Juve at that point, their defense was completely overwhelmed. It's like they're
trying to survive. They're not really defending, which sucks.
And it sucks because you're Italian. You're going 3-0 up at halftime. I expect you to go 7 in the back.
But they just went cruise control, Lyon, and this is what they do. And then Wendy Renard slots her penalty because that's what she does, which is her 104th goal of her career, like as a centre half. We're not even just what are we doing? Yeah. But ultimately, this game kind of leaves a lot to be desired in the sense of, should any team have won that game? I feel like Lyon did more than enough in the second half to be able to consider themselves worthy victors, especially in the first half when we're looking at the chances. The big chances were taken, right? They were 3-0 up, but then, I mean, the second half, we're talking 17 shots to 2. But, I mean, that photo of Wendy Renard holding the player of the match.
I hate this, Ben.
Is
I hate
hilarious.
No,
I just think it's hilarious.
The discourse is so boring. Who cares? No. They look depressed after the game. Yeah, they're tired.
They
didn't get 3 points.
She drew and she scored. Like, of course, she also copped 3. How did you watch that game and give it to her? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what that. Who actually has the job of choosing player of the match? Because, I mean, if we're gonna go off the first half, surely it's Bakari for that first goal.
I was just about to say, if you were to before this game, if you were to find out that Juve and Lyon were to draw,
give it to a Juve player.
You'd give it to a Juve player.
No question.
Because you'd instinctively think this is an underdog team coming up against the pedigree that is Lyon, and you're giving it to Wendy Renard. It's kind of like they picked the name that was most common and least offensive.
I can think of 3 players in Lyon's side that were better choices than Renard for that game, because Lindsay Eaps did her job in midfield. I thought she was quite good, not necessarily in the first half, but did the job in the second half. I thought Basha was amazing, and as I said before, De Mornay is probably my player of the match for Lyon. We move on to a game I'm so excited to talk about. Oh my God. What did I say? I called it as well. You said it'd be 2-2. You said it'd be a scrap. I said Villa gave the blueprint, City perfected it, and VFL mastered it. So VFL obviously taking on United, battering them 5-2. But it did start slow. It did start interesting. 7-goal thriller, starting with Rolfo against her old side, back post header. You kind of thought, oh no, I kind of watching this, I'm like, this is bad. This is everything United want this game to be. Skinner celebrating like a madman for that first goal. But then my German, I mean, it's weird to say that with a Bayern kit on, but I'm so glad VFL just did the business here. I mean, who do we want to talk about most? Petermors, Bierenstein, I don't care. Pick a player. Let's do it.
No, I think it's very easy to talk about a player like Bierenstein because it's not like the goals are unexpected. She is a top scorer who in the last 12 months has proven her worth. She's had an insane last 12 months, right? But Petermors, I mean, talk about a player who's not talked about. Talk about a player who's so underrated. I mean, her role, she can play all through midfield. She can go a bit higher. She can drop
10, 9. She can play up front. She was playing up front earlier this year and doing the business there when Pop wasn't fully fit. But for me, it's not really her versatility; it's the confidence. That I don't know what's going on in Wolfsburg, but they're just telling the players, if you have any instinct to shoot this ball, take it. Because every time that United made a mistake in this game, it was completely capitalized. This was 3 goals in this game. all off United defensive mistakes that easily could have been scrapped away, easily could have been dealt with, or easily could have been fluffed as a chance, but they made them pay. They played so hard, feisty, miserly. They made every single pass difficult for Manchester United, which is exactly what you want to do.
I just love to see a team that does their homework. I find it frustrating when I'm watching a team and I know their weaknesses and I'm watching the players and I'm like,
you're playing into their weak. You're playing into their strengths. Don't do that. 100%.
And to me, it's like very much so what you said. Very much Villa was the one who created the blueprint, and then AJ was the one who was able to capitalize on it. But I think what VFL did was kind of take those last 2 weeks and put it in the format which is the Champions League, which is a far more intense environment in my opinion, but also prove that you can have experience and class and also youth and that like fire off the bench and be just so clinical. And I felt that not only did Wolfsburg exploit on the obvious defensive, you can't even call it frailty. It's just just complete flustering now. It's kind of embarrassing for a team that's prided themselves on their defense all season. Yeah. It's not just that, but they also proved themselves to be far more better in midfield. They completely dominated the game possession-wise as well. I didn't see a Manchester United there that was the same Manchester United that we've seen, 3 weeks ago and then the weeks before that in the league.
I think for possession, it's a bit interesting. I think the possession in the forward half, I actually think United actually had good possession. The problem was that it wasn't intentional possession.
Well, that's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean.
Wolfsburg they did exactly what we did. We're happy to not have the ball. If you're going to pass around the back with players like Letitia, Riviere, Janssen, and Middleton Patel, she's not Tallis Joyce. And this is the thing. I said, Tallis Joyce is not in the goal. When you have chances that are struck at this goalie, albeit a second keeper, you are going to test her, and she's not going to save it so easily. It's not the same miserly defense. And the last 3 weeks, I've said it. I said it after the Villa game. I said it after our game. If you tighten up on Ziggy Olme, watch the game turn in your favour. And she was battered and bruised. She had to deal with duel after duel after duel, aerially, ground duels, and she did well. She won a lot more this week than she did against us. But the errors she was making, the missed passes she was making, she was just not going at the level we know her to be. She's usually a 90%, 92% passing player. She's going at 80%. She only had 3 defensive contributions. This is a player who does much more than that. And if you get Pedamors and Huth is an experienced veteran to tighten up on that player, then they have no outlet to pass to because Awujo wasn't occupying enough space. Miyazawa wasn't occupying enough space to be that other option. And without Elatoon to lead the midfield, you're going to get packed in. And it doesn't matter how young VFL's backline is because, no one in that backline is over 26, I think. But Mallard, yes, does get her goal to make it 3-2, and I kind of thought maybe they'd mount an opposition, but Bierenstein's strikes and just her clinical nature, you just think sometimes when she's in flow state, she could score 3, 4, 5 goals a game, and it's quite incredible because she is a player that I do think the purple patch will fall, and eventually that form will fall off a little bit, not to the extent of I think she won't be in the starting 11, but I think they have started to flourish in this 4-4-2 right now with Pop and Bierenstein together. But as we see at the end of the game, Enderman getting that goal, this is a player who has a lot to give. I don't know. She's young. She's hungry. She's back from injury and has the potential to break. I think she has the potential to break into this starting 11.
I've been on the Enderman train since 22-23 when I'm watching her and I'm going, this player needs to play over Julie Brandt when she was at Wolfsburg. She's a player that goal to me isn't even the best of it. Watch her in the Pokal where she gets a lot of her minutes, right? Yeah. You're seeing a player who is smart, who is wanting to take the ball on. She's a very stereotypical German type flank come 9 player. She is very eager to score, but I think that's what Wolfsburg are breeding. I think they're breeding a lot of players who just want to score goals. And you can go back to the first pod and you can see I'm surprised by this. I did not see this type of Wolfsburg from what I imagined coming into the season. And I'm happily surprised
They're
because
back. They're back.
yeah,
This
well,
is
they're
VFL.
back. Right, the players that they have are legends, right? I mean, Alex Pop deserves her time in glory for one last time. It's just,
Huth.
yeah, Huth as
Yeah.
well. I struggle to see where United go from now. I mean, this is great that another great thing about Wolfsburg coming into form is that they come into form the exact same time that United are coming out of form, so we get to see a United loss, which is great. But to me, I don't know where United go from this. They kind of look a bit like basically they need Talis Joyce, but this is a real identity problem now. Like, are we really going to blame the fact that they don't have a keeper on the last 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because it's clearly a morale shot as well. I think playing West Ham this week at home in the WSL, or not this week, the week after, will be an important revitalizer post-international break. I think it couldn't have come sooner, the international break for them.
I agree.
But the week after, having to play Lyon, then Tottenham, and then Juve, this is not easy games of football.
And then us coming after the break.
Exactly. In the WSL at the Emirates, we're gonna be asking a lot of questions of Mark Skinner. We're gonna be asking a lot of questions of their depth and their ability to rotate, because none of those games, obviously they're playing Tottenham twice. None of the League Cup game is not an easy game. I know it's Tottenham, but they're gonna want to win that, and they're gonna work hard to make sure
they have to decide which competition they want to focus on, because I don't see the depth, and that's obvious. It's so obvious. We're shown right now the depth problem. The players on the bench
so
are not
deep. They're so deep in the UCL. You can't not take that seriously.
I'm sorry, but first year, I don't think. I mean, you can go talk about mentality. You can
obviously I get you. Yes,
this is Manchester United we're talking about. This is a team that, for all intents and purposes, should be nowhere near a trophy. Should be nothing. No, get them away from the trophies. They can win the FA Cups. I don't care. But there is no reality.
You don't care.
There is no reality where there is a Champions League run by Manchester United.
But how can you say there isn't a Manchester? I was going to say Champions League.
Because the teams that they've played are not the teams
obviously, but you can't choose the teams you play.
No, but I can choose them when it's the last stages of the round.
That's true. But I think they can. The best Manchester United, if Talis Joyce is back, they can beat Juventus. They can beat Juventus.
Well, not the Juventus that nearly beat Lyon.
Correct. I think but the Juventus that loses games, the Juventus we know to see, they can beat them. I don't think they beat Lyon, correct? No. But if they beat Juve, that's enough to get through. And if they get through, obviously it hampers their league form, it hampers their League Cup form, and that's all that I can ask for. I don't want them to crash out of the Champions League because it will impact. No. But the reason I don't want them to crash out of the Champions League is because the longer they're in it and they have that false sense of security that they think they can do it, it will impact their League Cup form, which will benefit both of our teams. It will impact their WSL form, which means they'll be playing, I don't know, Europa League next year, depending on how the coefficients work, or just no European football next year because they've got too many comps to worry about. And that's all I can ask. I'm not here to say, like, and I want their league form to be crap so they're not challenging for the title. That's how I see this Champions League. The way you're talking about it is it's this exercise in futility that's not worth them trying. I want them to try because it'll make all their other competitions fail.
Okay, but I think that you're not seeing the reality here where capitulation is inevitable. Manchester United capitulate. It's in the Champions League, it's in the league, it's whatever.
Oh, you think it'll be all together? You think it'll be all encompassing?
They will get one too many injuries. The style will be proven to be futile, right? Yeah. It'll prove to be
we've now seen the blueprint. They have to change the way they play. It's not even just
that. You cannot go a season and, the argument, defense or attack wins leagues, wins whatever. In my opinion, in the WSL, defense can win you leagues, but it won't win you games. No. And right now, what Manchester United can do because of the position that they're in the league and this now new precarious position that they're in the Champions League, I don't think that their style of football will get them anywhere near a run of form, which will challenge your lot, which will challenge my lot, which will challenge the Champions League. They might get a run in the FA Cup.
Your lot are doing well in Europe, but your lot have to make a decision as well on what the priority is for
I think
for
that
this
my
season.
lot have something that United don't have. Well,
You have pedigree, you have history.
Pedigree, we have history, we have experience, and we have depth.
No,
Those
100%.
things
You are built. You are built to challenge the Champions League. I'm not questioning that. But your league form has suffered at the hands of that, and I think their league form is now suffering at the hands of that. And they have the international break to work out what the goal is for this season. And I think that's the real question. It's not really the on-field performances, because that can change. What do they actually want to achieve? What's the pass-fail metric for Manchester United this season? Which I don't really care about. I just see fail and fail. But if someone else out there if you ask me, I want them to go as far as they can in the Champions League, so they come sixth in the league. They get knocked out of the League Cup, knocked out of the FA Cup, and then have this amazing, beautiful UCL run that goes into the abyss of nothingness when they're not in Europe next year. That's how I see it.
This reminds me of if a Lyon fan wants PSG to run the Champions League as far as possible. It doesn't matter.
No, but
they're not winning anything anyway.
But that's my point, is that there is more security in the fact that PSG will never win anything than United.
Aren't winning anything.
No, I think United. United without Europe will contend for something better. Not saying they will. Better than if they don't have Europe. They just did. They knocked us out of Europe. That's the point. I'm talking from a place of that they are our rivals in knocking us out of Europe. Correct? They are the biggest rivals.
But you're in a position in the league and domestically far beyond that of United.
Right now. Maybe I just don't trust my team enough.
Exactly. I think it's just that. I think
Yeah.
this is just a Manchester, it's like this grip that this Manchester has on you, men, women. It's just it's this grip.
Yeah, I mean that's totally fair. But also, if I was a team like Paris FC, I would also see PSG as my rival, and PSG would look at Paris fans that same way of I want Paris FC to do not better than us in the UCL, but well enough where their league form hampers. Paris FC battered. We both called Paris to batter Benfica, but they did the job. They did the business. Matteo, most dribbles in the game, set up some passes. Shout out to one of their midfielders, Anaël Mogudek, I think is her name, but she got 2 assists of the 2 goals from midfield. Fantastic work. Very, very good. Roma, who weren't particularly good, left it late, and the idea we said that in this game, I thought it would be 3-2. I thought it'd be a goal fest where pragmatism would disappear and the idealistic, beautiful football would take over. I was wrong. Yeah, no, for Leuven specifically. But I thought Giuliano would run the show. I thought there'd be moments. I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. Leuven holding on to points as well. I've got to say, this Leuven Champions League run this season has been very, very entertaining. And right now they are in playoff position, which is really cool. If they do it in their first season, they're ahead of Paris FC, they're ahead of Twente, they're 1 point behind your lot. Let's get the reality of this team that's never been in the UCLW before.
I love it.
Is doing the absolute business.
I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I think it's good for the game. I think it's actually great for the game. But I also think if there are more teams, if we're going to have more teams in the Champions League, right? If this is a reality that we have to face, then at least have competition. At least don't just chuck teams in for the sake of it, right? Yeah. We actually have
let's get rid of PSG.
Yeah, exactly. Benfica, I don't know why the hell you showed up. But for me, I would rather a team like Leuven. I think they have the spirit of the Champions League.
Why did I think that Twente would draw with Atleti? I thought Twente would... Well, actually, you said Twente would give Atleti a game, but then predicted Atleti to win. And then I said that they probably won't. But then I predicted a 1-1 draw. So I don't know what's wrong with both of us.
No, I think it's because I've seen Twente at home. I saw the Chelsea game. And I saw Madrid, Atleti were coming off, quite a difficult patch of form. They've played a lot of games. Twente, I believe they're doing well in the league.
They are on top by 1 game. So Ajax is only 3 behind them. and PSV are 4 behind them, and Feyenoord as well, and PEC all. So it's a quite tight race for top 2. But yeah, they're one game ahead out in front with a very
I thought they'd give them a game.
Difference.
I think that there's a really distinct difference in between play here. I think you have a very physical style of game that Twente like to impose, and then Atleti come with their individual brilliance. That was
they style on teams that are lesser than them, and Bartel, Benitez, Sarajevo, Jensen all on the score sheet. Gabby Garcia having a good game after her red card performances previous, but getting back into the business. The ultimate UCLW fodder derby. This is it. Vålerenga St. Polten providing the goods with a 2-2. This was, I mean, the highlights I watched were absolutely fantastic. This is a night out in Europe, right? This is it.
This is always a game where I feel like maybe 7 people watch it, and then like obviously the ultras of those unique teams, but they end up being good games.
Yeah.
And this is why the Europa League, and it's doing well, by the way, we won't touch on it, but it's a good league to watch. This is why the Europa League would do well, because in its fully fledged form next year, these are the teams where the quality is good. It's just that they're having to compete against, big conglomerates, if you like, of football. And Vålerenga, St. Polten, Twente, all these teams, Leuven, they're great teams.
Benfica, Roma, they'll fall. I mean, it'll be this. Well, I mean, Roma will probably be in the Champions League with their league form at the moment. But the reality is, I had a chat with someone on X about the ultimate structure of what UEFA want to do with this Europa League, and I question how the playoffs are going to work in order to funnel teams into the Europa, and whether there should even be default teams that get Europa qualification as a whole, because I feel like the more top 5 league teams that are in those European comps, the game grows, the international recognition and standing of the teams grow. That's how you grow the game. And I don't mean to be insulting to teams like St. Polten and Vålerenga and Häcken, and these are teams that should be in those leagues, of course, because it gives them notoriety. But what gives them more notoriety is not just playing against them. It's playing against Tottenham at White Hart Lane. It's playing against United at Old Trafford. That's the day out, right? Coming up against Atletico Madrid if they drop down. Coming up against Sociedad. These are the games we need to build up a crop of academy players that can survive that survive in the Europa, win the Europa, dominate the Europa League, and then we all go, oh my God, no wonder this team signed this player for 800k. Look at their Europa League campaign, because they came up against this good team and that good team. I don't want to be going like, oh, they were good in the Europa, but they were only coming up against like limited opposition. We want to see the best of the best in the Champions League, and we want to see the next best. Yeah, teams like City, who are in 4th this season. Obviously it would have hampered our league form, but we should be in that Europa League competition, playing against those teams, giving them the respect that they deserve, because these teams in the Europa Cup deserve to play the bigger notoriety teams, because it puts them on the map as well.
I think the allure of the Europa League and the Conference League in the men's game has been lost because of the dominance of the big, maybe 2 leagues, 3 leagues, that like England, maybe Italy, maybe Germany or Spain. Yeah. But usually it's England, right? And it's the big one that dominates, because basically what's happening is that in the Premier League, those teams may be bad, but they're very, very good in comparison to the teams in other leagues. Yeah,
we just saw an all-English final in the men's Europa League last year. Yes,
and we saw Chelsea completely, like, they put out their C team in every
in the Conference League. But then tried in the final against Betis. But even that game was very entertaining. That was a fantastic game to watch. That final. That's what I want the Europa League to be for WOSO. And I understand that the depth is different.
But what I was actually saying was, I think that the women's game is in a very unique predicament now, where it's not as distant the levels that it is in the men's.
Oh, yes, 100%.
Like Manchester United, Chelsea, they're always going to be better than some fodder in Kazakhstan. Like, that's obvious. But in the women's game, Tottenham, your lot might get an actual game against the 20s. Like, it'll be a game, and you'll actually see the style differences, the talent, the fact that these leagues are fostering the next generation in ways that even England is struggling with. Like, I find that you're getting a lot of the best talent from Sweden, from Norway, from wherever, from the Netherlands, right? So you want to be able to create an environment in which you're actually showcasing that parity exists in the women's game in ways that we haven't seen before, and it's really awesome to see.
And you also get incentives in the higher leagues to finish higher in the ladder. So it's not just Champions League qualification for the top three. We're battling for fourth. We're battling for fifth. If we want eventually to have that Conference League, that will inevitably happen in years' time. Not straight away. We still need the depth of the sport to grow, but imagine the fifth place battle in this league right now. We're looking at teams like Tottenham, Villa, LCL.
Imagine Sociedad in this.
Sociedad versus LCL would be an amazing game. Yeah, Sociedad versus Spurs. That's the kind of thing we want to see eventually. The tops of the respective top leagues battling each other at their respective levels. So you can make the argument and go, oh, well, the Liga F is obviously better than the WSL. And then you don't have stupid Yanks going, oh, well, our league's the best in the world. Come play in our leagues and see what happens, and stop sitting around with your millions of cups. I mean, we went a little bit off topic there, but that's our little rant as we finish up our Europe roundup.